From an entire silverware set to a loaded handgun, here are 10 of the weirdest things ever found in the human body. Number 10, plants in lungs. Your lungs are clearly a moist, warm environment, and for some unfortunate people, they provide the perfect conditions for plants to take root and grow. So check it out. In 2010, a man in Massachusetts was rushed to the hospital with a collapsed lung. It happened. Fearing the worst and expecting to be diagnosed with cancer, he underwent a series of diagnostic tests. And to everyone's surprise, it turned out that a pea plant had taken root. A freaking pea plant. How does that even happen? Like, this guy was eating a pea and accidentally inhaled it, and that little pea was like, "I'm not dying today." The funniest thing is, the doctors suspect that is exactly what happened. This guy ate a pea that went down the wrong way. Lucky him. Actually, Mr. Massachusetts was lucky. They were able to remove the plant, and soon after, he made a full recovery. Things were not so fortunate for a Russian patient, however, because in 2009, Artyom Sidorkin thought he had a tumor and similar cancerous expectations. However, after surgeons saw a growth on his x-rays, they decided to cut it open. Him open. They found a green fir tree growing inside his lung. Seriously. And yes, just as you expected, he inhaled it too. Guess Sidorkin was a botanist, and the thought was that he inhaled the seed or part of a branch during his studies. What was he doing? Like checking the seeds for ripeness? Like, yeah man, this one is ripe. That one is ripe. Well, his seed inhalation led to the 5-centimeter tree that grew inside of him. Anyway, in the end, they were forced to remove part of his lung because the tree had fully entwined itself within the organ. Go figure, those dang roots. Number 9, an entire cutlery drawer. Margaret Dahlman is this 52-year-old woman from the Netherlands. She made the news in 2009 after having to go into surgery as a result of a rather peculiar obsession she had developed. The incident actually happened 30 years earlier, but only came to light when a magazine asked readers to send their tales of weird medical experiences. Margaret was complaining because she had a stomach ache. But when she got x-rayed and the results came back, it immediately became clear why. Surgeons were literally stunned when they found that the cause of Margaret's pains was an entire 78-piece silverware set. I mean, we're not talking about a single dinner setting here. 78 pieces of silverware. It turns out that during mealtimes, rather than eating her food, she instead had developed a habit of eating the cutlery. Charming, I know. Margaret, eat your food. But Mom, I'm not hungry. Dahlman was eventually diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. You don't say. The surgeons were able to remove the cutlery one by one. And, yes, she went on to make a full recovery. Now, whether she continued to eat forks and spoons, who knows? But this is one lady you would not put your fine silver set out for if she came over for dinner. Oh, we're eating with plastic tonight, love. That's right. Number 8, fish in bladder. It's not too unusual to find a fish in someone's body. After all, they are a favorite food for humans. I personally would be a mess without sushi. Worldwide, we eat over 100 million tons of fish each year. And believe it or not, there are a few cases where people have managed to get fish inside them. Yeah, but not inside their stomach, like inside their bladder. This has happened more than once. This first story comes from China in 2011. Zhang Nan had been to a health spa where you swim with small eels that nibble away at your dead skin and leave you feeling all fresh. So fresh and so clean. The problem for Nan was that one of these eels had a totally different idea. That sneaky little. After experiencing sharp pains in an intimate area, he went to the local hospital where doctors found an eel had worked its way up through the 56-year-old's penis and then into his bladder. Ew! After being operated on for 3 hours, yes, 3, the surgeons were finally able to remove the now dead 6-inch eel. Double ew. Nan has now learned an important lesson about fad health regimes. Never listen to the internet. Who are you? Another similar example is that of a 14-year-old boy in India. He claims to have cleaned out his fish tank and gone pee-pee while still holding the fish. Well, the boy said it had slipped from his hands and slid straight up his urethra. Oh, it slipped, huh? Thankfully for Nan, doctors were able to insert a device and managed to remove the 2-centimeter long, also dead fish without leaving the boy with any long-term effects. Well, other than the sheer embarrassment of the whole ordeal, again, internet. Number 7, Buzz Lightyear. We all know who Buzz Lightyear is, well, or at least you should know if you haven't been living in a box. Cute, annoying little Toy Story dude who coined the phrase, "to infinity and beyond," which I doubt he actually meant, unless of course he was in love. Boys take notes. But the world's favorite spaceman and the person a large proportion of children think was, in fact, the first man to the moon, millennials, is also the first Toy Story figure to have entered the human brown hole. Disgusting. No, he literally went all the way in. He was like mooned. Poor Buzz Lightyear. Yeah, no, poor attending doctors. Oh, things like this can happen. Possibly often as a result of tripping, falling, and landing on an object while doing house chores in the nude, of course. But I'm not entirely sure how Lightyear actually managed to get himself in such a precarious position. I'm not sure I want to know how. I'll leave that one for you to go figure out for yourself. Luckily for the patient involved, the removal was fairly quick. That's what she said. Let's just hope for everyone's sake they'll be far more careful when playing with their toys in the future. Number 6, a potato. It's not just normal people who manage to have accidents in the nude. It can happen to clergymen as well. In 2008, this happened to an unnamed who in his 50s when he fell backwards onto a potato on his kitchen table. How? It gets better. While he was hanging curtains up, presumably something he was doing to give himself a little more privacy. You don't say. The hospital doctors from Sheffield in the UK struggled to keep straight faces, but being the consummate professionals that they were, they got right to work. After a delicate examination and removal, the potato was finally removed from his booty, with the person with no name repeatedly saying that it had happened during an innocent act. Obviously, everyone believed him. When the whole ordeal was over, he probably went back to hanging his curtains up, but this time with a doctor's prescription for clothing, just in case he experienced any issues with the pole. Number 5, fridge magnets. The next object on this list that has been found inside the human body is a surprisingly common one, particularly with the young children, and should act as a warning for all parents out there of all kinds. In 2013, a Russian mother left her 16-month-old toddler alone in the kitchen for a few minutes because she had to deal with an emergency situation somewhere else in the house. To her horror, when she returned, all of the fridge magnets were gone. After looking around for where her darling child had hidden them, she soon realized that he must have eaten them and rushed him to the hospital. Doctors confirmed her suspicions. A mother is always right. And he was soon on the operating table to have them removed. Get this though, in total, they removed 42 round magnets from his stomach, which makes it all the more dangerous considering magnets naturally clump together and form much, much larger objects than their constituent parts. Really though, all jokes aside, magnets can be a serious risk, particularly to young children. So please, moms and dads, keep your magnets out of reach. Number 4, hairballs. If you have a cat, ladies, I'm talking to you, you are probably familiar with the unsightly hairballs. But when they develop in humans, the results are far grosser. Recently, in 2016, an extreme case of a human hairball was found in Sophie Cox, a 23-year-old from Cheltenham in the UK. Sophie was diagnosed with 2 conditions: trichotillomania, where sufferers have the urge to pull out their hair. Yeah, that's a thing. And trichophagia, where they have the compulsion to then eat it. She thought the conditions were harmless enough, harmless, so she didn't do anything about them. But this all changed after she gave birth, not to a hairball, and she started experiencing severe stomach pains and rapid weight loss. Doctors, who were at a loss, tested her stomach for cancer or gallstones, but all the tests came back negative. It was only when they conducted an endoscopy, where a camera is inserted into the stomach, that they knew exactly what was really going on. Inside her stomach, they found a giant 14-pound hairball that had accumulated. 14 pounds of hair! Sophie had to wait an additional 5 months before she could be operated on. And after a 6-hour procedure, the trichophazor, or hairball for us normal people out there, was finally removed. And she returned to normal health. The experiences she went through are surprisingly common, with multiple reports each year of similar cases in countries all around the world. Can you believe it? So if you, like Sophie, have a fondness for chewing on your hair, think about what she went through the next time you're nibbling away. You could very well have a trichophazor living in you. Number 3, tapeworm in the brain. It is absolutely terrifying to think that human bodies provide the perfect environment for certain parasitic species to thrive. And chances are that you have known someone that has had worms or lice or something like that at some point in their life. But with that being said, some infestations are less common than others, and in some cases, they can be really terrible. Cysticercosis is arguably the worst example of this, which is a tissue infection that develops in the brain as a result of the presence of the pork tapeworm. Being kosher don't seem so bad after all, now does it? Cysticercosis can cause neurological symptoms and potentially even be fatal. Luis Ortez, a 26-year-old student, found himself confronting this sad possibility in 2015 when he was rushed to a hospital in California after experiencing a series of mild and severe headaches, one of which caused him to black out. When doctors looked, they found a live tapeworm just chilling in his brain, which was cutting off the blood flow. Nasty little brain suckers. Ugh. But it gets even worse. By the time they found it, they told him it had progressed to such a stage that he only had 30 minutes to live. 30 minutes. Ouch. They took him straight into surgery to remove the parasite. And luckily for Luis, the procedure went as planned and saved his life. The procedure involved him being put into a coma before a camera was inserted to locate the worm and larva sac that they then carefully removed, still wiggling, before closing him up again. Fortunately for all of us, brain parasites are very rare, with only 1,000 people being admitted in the US each year as a result of them. They can also only be picked up by eating infected and undercooked meat, or by ingesting fecal material. Wash your hands, kids! As long as you cook your food properly and live a clean lifestyle, this isn't one that you need to lose sleep over. Number 2, vibrator and salad tongs. So when people manage to get embarrassing things stuck inside them, it's quite usual for them to try everything that they possibly can to remove them before finally deciding to go to a doctor to safely remove the item. This first of all means that no one has any idea how common such accidents are, but it also means that some cases become far more embarrassing if the removal attempt also results in failure. #fail. That's what happened to this poor patient who managed to get a vibrator stuck in their rectum. Same story, different day, that's what I say. Presumably thinking that doctors wouldn't believe some illegitimate story about them accidentally falling over, they decided to try and remove it with a set of salad tongs. That is some serious tossing of the salad, if you catch my condescending pun. Unfortunately, this just exacerbated the problem, because the tongs also got stuck. Just brilliant. The patient had no choice but to go to the hospital when this happened. Duh. Providing the whole world with this crazy X-ray that shows with uncomfortable clarity the full extent of the predicament that they had gotten themselves into. This is one for the grandkids. Number 1, loaded handgun. Good old Tennessee definitely deserves the number 1 spot on this list. Dallas Archer, a 21-year-old who had first of all been arrested for driving without a license, got herself into deep trouble when she ended up being convicted of a felony charge for introducing contraband into a penal facility, an act that comes with a sentence of 3 years. So everything seemed to be going great for her. I mean, considering, while she was being processed at her local lockup. But during the body search, a female officer located an unknown item in her crotch. After being accompanied to the bathroom, it turned out that Archer had concealed a loaded .22 caliber North American Arms mini revolver in her vagina. That is a big vagina, loosey-goosey, you know? To make matters even worse, it wasn't even hers. The gun had been stolen a few years previously, which in turn led to her also being charged for possession of a stolen property. Indeed she was. Although this charge was later dropped because no fingerprints, I bet. As for the gun, by all accounts, the 71-year-old legitimate owner is still awaiting the return of his property. Do they seriously want it back? This whole situation smells kind of fishy to me. Thanks so much for watching. Do you know anyone who's weird on the inside? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and keep watching. I'll see you next time.